Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag Write, Publish, Market to spread the love. Monique, welcome. I'm so happy to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, Jody.
All right. So I did pre-record your formal intro, bio, all that, but give us like the quick in your own words, just, who you are, who you serve, how you serve them.
Sure. I'm Monique Mensah. I am your personal self-publishing assistant. I turn manuscripts into masterpieces by self-publishing books for authors that don't look self-published, but only for authors who are serious about success. I've been in this industry for 15 years now, first as an author, then as an entrepreneur. And I love what I do. I love to talk shop. I love to talk about self-publishing. I can talk about it all day long. So I'm excited to get into it.
Love it. Yeah. The key that I think you said that no one listening to this podcast that's a regular listener will be surprised to hear that I'm excited to talk to you, because I'm a big believer in like doing it the right. Self-publishing is the best, but you've got to do it the right way.
Absolutely.
So let's start there, because I think self-publishing, it's come a long way, right? We've both been in the industry a long time. Like it used to really be like only if you couldn't get a traditional deal. But now so many people choose it because it's taken away so many barriers, which I think is great. But then the flip side of that is there's no barrier to entry. And so there's a lot of bad product out there. So let's start there. I know you say like DIY does not equal like poor quality. So start there. Like, why do you think that? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, self-publishing is not synonymous with DIY. So a lot of people think that when they get into self-publishing their books, that means that they need to do everything themselves. Hands-on, I'm going to design my own cover. I'm going to do my own interior. I'm going to do everything myself. And it does not mean that. Self-publishing means that you, the author, are also the publisher of the book. That's it. And for the things that you need done to get the book published, it's definitely a good idea to delegate those services to the professionals and the experts in the industry so that you can produce a high quality product instead of a DIY disaster.
Yeah. Well, yes, my tune is always, I should not be able to tell the difference between your self-published book and this book that was traditionally published, right? And if you do it the right way, I can't tell the difference.
Absolutely. I say the same, Jody. I feel like we're kindred. We're kindred spirits, because I say the exact same thing. Like, and that's my goal. Like when I help my clients self-publish books, like that is my goal, to lay it next to a traditionally published book. You can't readily tell the difference. You don't want people looking at your book and saying, "Oh, wow, that looks good. Did you do it yourself?" Yeah. That's like when you get your hair done, right? And they're like, "Oh, look at your hair. You did it yourself?" That's a compliment. Right? Like you want someone to look at your book and say, "Wow, this looks like a good book," not "Wow, this looks like you did it yourself."
Yes. I love that. Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking about like all the backhanded comments, like my nieces and nephews sometimes give me. They're like, "Oh, you didn't sleep so good last night? You look tired today." And I'm like, "Okay, got it. More eye cream." Like,
oh my gosh, kids are the worst. The kids are the absolute worst.
Yeah, but no, that's exactly right. So what I was hoping we would do in this, what I think will be really helpful for listeners, is you have the best freebie, which we are going to link in the show notes, the 4 keys to publishing a premium quality book. So as I was coming up with questions and then I looked at your freebie, I was like, oh, this freebie guides me right through these questions that I have. So I thought we would just kind of run through that a little bit. So the 4 keys, let's start at the beginning with ownership. So what do we need to know about ownership when it comes to a professionally premium quality book?
Yeah. Absolutely. So ownership is super important when it comes to self-publishing a premium quality book. And before I get into the importance of ownership and what it actually means, I want to make a really important distinction. A lot of authors have heard about copyright, registering your manuscript for copyright, and you absolutely should do that. Copyright protects your intellectual property, so the words that are in the manuscript. And the copyright actually belongs to you as soon as you write it, whether you registered or not. So super, super important to have. But there's actually another right that is as equally important when you're publishing your book, and that's your publishing rights or your ownership rights. So ownership rights or publishing rights means that you have complete control and ownership over the published book. So the final product. Mm-hmm. Copyright is a manuscript, the words, publishing rights is the book. When you have publishing rights as a self-published author, that means you control every aspect of that self-published book. So that means that you control the printing, you control the distribution, and you control the sales profits. And that means that you can do whatever you want with this book, whenever, wherever, however.
Yeah.
Only one thing gives you publishing rights over your book, and that is your ISBN. ISBN is a 13-digit serial number that is assigned to your book for sales purposes. It's like a social security number to identify your book. And when the ISBN is purchased and registered in the self-published author's name or the name of their own publishing imprint, and then assigned to the book that they're publishing, it gives them publishing rights. And that gives you all the control. As a self-published author, you're not just an author, you're also a business. I like to call them authorpreneurs. And as a business owner, someone who's running a business, even if you're just, a solopreneur, you're doing it by yourself, it's very, very important for you to own your assets. And
absolutely,
your book is your product. So own your product so that you can have complete control and not have to worry about anyone else putting any restrictions on you.
Yeah, I love that. The social security number analogy is a good one.
Yeah,
that's a really good one. And you're right. It's both of those pieces, but I think people don't quite get sometimes that the copyright protection is automatic,
right?
But the publishing rights, it's not at all. And we should point out, just in case you're not listening in the United States, the ISBN is different. The way it works is different in every country. Like in Canada, you get an ISBN for free. Like you don't have to pay for it. And every country has its own agency. But the bottom line is figure out what it is in your country. In the United States, it's Bowker. Buy your ISBN from Bowker. But yeah, it gives you all the leverage.
Absolutely.
All the leverage. Yeah.
I think like a lot of authors, there's a lot of information out here about how to publish your book in lots of ways that makes it very easy and convenient for you to do it. And Amazon KDP is one of them. But what big misstep that I think a lot of authors take is they use Amazon's free ISBN when they're publishing their paperbacks or now their hardcovers with Amazon KDP.
Yep.
Not realizing that that's giving Amazon KDP some control over your published book.
Yeah.
So I understand the desire to save a little bit of money.
Sure.
Doesn't want to save money, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But when it comes to self-publishing and being an entrepreneur, that means that you're willing to invest in your business.
Right.
It's an investment to make sure that this turns out the way that you really want it to, and you really have so that's important for a self-published author.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's one of the main reasons that I hear, and I'm sure you hear as well, Monique, why people are choosing self-publishing is for that control piece,
Absolutely.
Right? So don't do something so simple to give it away then, if this is, what you want to do. So, okay. All right. Now let's talk about the product itself, like the book itself. And I know we're talking about we've got the editorial side and the design side. So where we can start with either one of those, but those are the two biggies when it comes to the look of the book.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's start with editing.
Okay. Let's.
Listen, editing is not, and let me back up. Professional editing is not optional for a premium quality book. I believe so much in the integrity of the self-publishing industry, and I value us as authors and what we do. And so much the fact that when I'm working with clients to self-publish their books, I don't accept manuscripts that aren't professionally edited or that you don't have the intent of getting professionally edited. Okay. Because it can make or break your book. If it may look beautiful, it may be genre appropriate and have a beautiful package. But when the readers open up that book and it's not well crafted, it's not well written, it's got a bunch of errors, it's got a bunch of plot holes, it's confusing. Yeah. And you're going to hear about it in the reviews. Yeah. And bad reviews tank sales. So I always tell my authors, if you want to be serious, if you want to be taken serious in this industry as an author, your book has to look serious. You have to take it seriously. So those things is professional editing. So no, not Grammarly. No, not Chat-GPT. No, not your old English professor.
Yes.
Not your best friend who got all A's in English in high school. Okay. All of those tools may be great for like self-edits, you know, to get your manuscript ready for the professional editor for the big prime time. But you definitely need someone who is not only going to give you the type of editing that you need for your manuscript, but also specializes in your genre and understands how to keep your voice. Because that's going to make all the difference between a high quality book and a book that, you know, people are going to be leaving bad reviews about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why is it always like the retired English teacher or retired librarian? My high school librarian, right? That is not the same as a professional editor.
They're looking for ways to cut corners because, I mean, let's be real, like Jody, like the editing can be a sizable investment. It depends. Yeah, it depends on your manuscript, what your needs are, and the editor that you're working with. So sometimes the pricing can be a little bit of a turnoff, right? But again, it's an investment into a high quality product. And it also goes towards, like I said, I definitely have high values for the integrity of the industry. Like it goes towards like that stigma that you talked about, you know, earlier, like when self-publishing first came out, it was for the rejects, right? Like if you can't traditionally publish. And so a stigma is attached to that. People expect self-published books to be of a lower quality in traditional book. And so if you're not getting your book professionally edited, you're adding to that stigma. It's like you kind of holding the whole industry back. I hate to put that pressure on you, but
No, you're so right. You are so right. Because even though it's a huge piece of the industry, it's all judged the same, right? So if there's a couple books that are very clearly not professionally edited, it's very easy for people to say, oh, the self-publishing arm of the industry has not made any progress. It's still this. It's still,
Absolutely. And I'm from experience. Like I'm an author myself. Like I that's how I started, you know, in this industry as an author. My very first book I published in 2009. And I did all the research in the world, but I still ended up booking an editor. I didn't understand the different types of editing.
Yes, that was my next question. Perfect. Good segue.
Yeah, well, go ahead, because I can give you my example.
That's perfect. We'll start with your example, but I think that's the key is that everybody thinks an editor is I don't mean just, I'm using air quotes, just a copy editor who's going to come through with a red pen and make sure that you would have gotten an A in 7th grade English. But there's so many different types of editors and you need to know what you need. And when you don't know what you don't know, right? So let's hear your example and then like talk about the types of editing.
So I knew that I needed an editor. I had a mentor. So I did research. I had a mentor, you know, so I'm doing this thing right, you know, and I needed an editor. I knew that. And so I did my research and I found an editor who did a wonderful job of dissecting the story for me, telling me where to add things, where to take things out, consider this, consider that. So that would be a developmental editor. I write thrillers. So this was a fiction developmental editor. She did a wonderful job helping me develop the story. However, after publishing the book and doing a 500 copy print run, I was able to catch more than 250 line editing errors because I didn't understand that she doesn't do copy editing.
She's not doing that. Yeah. Yep.
Right. And so, and another mistake that I made was thinking that once I got it back from the editor, oh, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. Your eye should be the last checkpoint to say, hey, this is exactly how I want it to be. I'm catching those minor things here and there. Didn't do that either. But needless to say, you know, since that was a very big learning experience for me.
Sure.
And it was way back in 2009. Now, of course, I definitely understand the different types of editing, developmental, line editing, copy editing, and proofreading. I don't know do you consider proofreading editing?
It's not, it falls under the editing umbrella, I think, within book production, but it's technically not editing at all. I mean, it's like the last line of defense.
Yeah, absolutely. So knowing where, like being honest with yourself, right? Like if you're a first time author, you're gonna want somebody to look at your stuff developmentally, structurally. Be honest with yourself. Like, don't just be like, well, I don't want the developmental edit because that's going to cost more money. Again, this is an investment, right? If you only get copy editing without developmental editing, the whole story may not even resonate with your audience. So it doesn't matter what it says on those lines.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a real big point that a lot of people misunderstand with fiction for sure, but that happens with nonfiction too. Oh, yeah. Even though there's not a story, a lot of times, especially business owners there's a lot of your story in the book with the books that they're writing, right? They're personal development, but they've got that like memoir piece to it. And it's the same thing. If you get so far in the process, you can have a beautifully copy edited book. But if it doesn't have the overall structure that makes sense and that is compelling and, all of those sorts of things, like you were saying before, like make sure somebody knows your genre, like to know what they're supposed to be looking for,
Absolutely.
But so many people don't realize so then now they've paid for copy editing and the copy editor comes back and maybe tells them like, this really should have had a developmental edit, or maybe doesn't tell them and they figure it out even later. But at that point, you're so far into the process that a lot of people don't want to go back to do a developmental editor and like start over, quote unquote. You know what I mean? So figuring out what you need for your book and when you need it is, such a piece that I don't think enough people talk about.
Yeah. And let's throw in, because I get a lot of people, like they'll come to me, they want, I self-publish books for authors, facilitate the whole process for them. Yeah. And so one of my first questions is, where are you in the editing process? Have you had editing? They'll say, oh, I just need proofreading. I'm just like, you need,
I doubt that.
Did you get line editing? Did you get copy editing? Proofreading is the last step before we're ready to roll with the rest of the publishing process. Like proofreading is not something that you do on a raw manuscript at all. Yeah. After copy editing or line editing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, proofreading is to catch anything that in my opinion, proofreading is really only for catching things that go wrong in typesetting. You know what I mean? Or like a typo that slipped through, something like that. But you should not be using proofreading as a stage of editing. I don't believe. You know what I mean? At that point, like, you've got page proofs at that point. It looks like a book and we're ready to go. So this is not the time to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe that chapter should go before chapter 3. Like, no. Like that ship sailed. So I'm with you on that.
I've had people do that.
A lot of people do that. Yeah. Because again, I don't think they understand like the distinction among the types of editing to really know that, no, you really do need You need actual editing, not just proofreading. So, okay. Well, I mean, that's a soapbox that I could be on all day. It sounds like I could make some room for you up there on my soapbox. Come on up. Okay. So, I mean, bottom line, get a professional edit. Hey there, business owner and aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. So now let's talk about what the book looks like. The types, the typesetting and the cover. Like, let's talk about interior and cover here, because obviously equally important in a different way as editing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when it comes to the cover design for your book, I am vehemently against any type of DIY templates or any type of, free cover design platform or anything like that. I am vehemently against an author doing their own cover unless they are a trained professional.
Yes.
Book cover designer.
Yeah. Say it again, over and over and over again.
Yeah, not a graphic artist. I'm talking about specifically a
book cover. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because there's so much that goes into it. Yes, you want your book to look good. You want it to be pretty. You want it to be attractive, right? That's one thing. But also you want your book to be genre appropriate. You want when people look at your book, if it's a self-help book, it needs to look like a self-help book. Mm-hmm. So if it's a money and finance book, it needs to look like that. If it's a book on spirituality, it needs to look like that. Because if it doesn't, people are scrolling through scrolling through Amazon, walking through bookstores, and they're not giving a whole lot of time and attention. They're zoning in on what they're looking for. And if yours does not look like what they're looking for, they're going to pass it right on up. Yep. Or what'll happen is your book will end up in the wrong reader's hands because they thought it was type of book because that's what it looks like. Yep. They it's something else, and you end up with 1-star reviews.
Yes. Well, yeah, because that reader didn't get what they were expecting, and so they think your book sucks. Yes.
Absolutely. Yep. So the first step, I believe, in creating a quality design, a book cover design for a premium book is genre research. Seeing what's out there in the market, what's trending right now. There are design trends out there for different genres. So looking at books in your genre, looking at, let me make a distinction, looking at traditionally published books in your genre. Yeah. I always tell people to use traditionally published books as their benchmark because a lot of self-published authors out here are doing it whatever kind of way that they feel like what to do. And so they don't really serve as a good benchmark. Right. So looking at those books and seeing, what fonts are being used, what type of images are being used, what type of elements do I see that are included on the cover? Do I see review blurbs? Do I see a descriptor? Are people adding headshots and bios to the back? Like, how does this look, right? Fonts are really important. There are certain fonts that are used for fantasy and sci-fi versus romance or thrillers. There are certain fonts that are used for business books. So you want to make sure that you're in line with that so that people know that this is the type of book that they're looking for. And that's not to say that you can't have any type of creative license or that your book can't look unique or special. Yeah. Absolutely, it should, right? But you want it to represent your brand properly. And it starts with that genre research. What do books like mine look like?
Yeah. Well, because that's what readers of that type of book are expecting. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where people get caught up. You mentioned where you think now, oh, I don't have any creative license. I have to make it look like cookie cutter like this. No, that's not what we're saying. Right. But you do want to produce a book that looks like what people are looking for in this kind of book. Like, absolutely. Do yourself a favor. Like that's the first step. Like, you're making it easy for yourself if you do that.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Like, say, for instance, like a business book. Business books, a lot of times, like they won't have any, not necessarily business, but like say like a self-help book. It could be for business purposes or something like that. A lot of times they don't have any imagery. A lot of times it's just text only. Or what's really common for nonfiction books is to incorporate the design into the title, into the right? For more of like a cerebral type of design or clever design or something like that. So paying attention to things like that. And absolutely 100% cutting out any DIY options. So that means no Canva for your book cover design, no Amazon cover creator for your book cover design. Because I guarantee you, if you're doing this on your own and you're not skilled and trained in that area, it's going to look like it. It may look good to you. Yeah. Your book is not for you. Your book is for your audience, it's for your readers. Right. So you want to make sure that you hire a professional that not only does specialize in book covers, but book covers in your genre. Because you may find a wonderful, romance book cover designer, but you're publishing a nonfiction book for your business. How's that going to translate?
Exactly. Yeah.
Being open to suggestions from that expert and that professional, being open to the idea that the cover may not look exactly how you pictured it in your head, but trusting the process. And like I said, leaning on those benchmark books to make sure that you're creating one that fits well into the market.
Absolutely. Yeah. I one time edited, it's 2 different times. So I was editing before I moved into book coaching and strategy. I was a copy editor. And I edited a business book one time for this lovely woman. And she just, after we went through the whole thing, she sends me the cover copy to edit. And it was a templated cover that a previous client of mine had used. But both swore to me it wasn't a template cover. Monique, it was the same cover, the same colors, the same blocking. I mean, everything was exact. And I was like, I said, so I went back to her and I was like, there's actually another book in your genre with the exact same cover with different words. And she was like, oh, I don't know how that happened. And I was like, well, I know how it happened because this is not a custom cover. This is a template. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that can happen too. I mean, if you're using a template or like a template cover designer or a template on Canva, whatever, who's to say no, someone else isn't using the exact same thing. And
That's a really great point. Like you want your
bad
book
news.
to uniquely represent you and you don't want every other book out here. Like it's just going to look so basic. Right. And that's another. And so we talked about, not being able to distinguish between self-published and traditionally published. That's another distinguishing factor.
Yes.
If everywhere I look, I see this same template. Oh, this is self-published. I don't want to. And because what it says is that the author did not think enough about this product, about this book to invest. But that same author expects the customer to invest in it. There's a disconnect there.
Disconnect. Yep.
It's not worth it to you. It's not worth it to your readers.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, and the cover, like, let's face it, books are judged by the cover, whether we like it or not. So, all right. So now let's open up the book. Let's talk about the interior. One of the biggest struggles I face with clients is business owners want to use their designer that they have in their business for their book because they're like, oh no, I already have a designer. She understands me. Like we've been working together forever. And I'm like, she's a great designer. But she's not a book designer. She's not a book typesetter. So let's talk about the importance of using a book typesetter for the interior of your book.
Yeah. So to them, I would probably say, imagine if someone came to you for whatever it is that they need, and they were asking you to do something that is totally out of your wheelhouse, totally out of your expertise. Would you do it? Like, would you feel comfortable doing it? Like, it's the same thing. Like, this is like the interior design is a design process. So you have to think of it that way. Like, you want a designer who knows what to look for, who knows what makes a interior read smooth like butter, right? Yeah. Because if they don't, then your readers are going to be more so focused on why this doesn't quite look right.
Yeah. Why does it look like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than the content, right? You want them to be immersed in the content. If you're a business owner, they're learning something from this content, right? They're getting their problem solved. They're getting a solution. They're never going to get to that solution or their answer if they're too busy focused on why the inside of your book looks so janky. Yep. So 100%, it's a design process. There's design and then there's typesetting. A lot of times most times your interior designer and your typesetter will be the same person, but making sure that you hire someone who knows what they're doing in that area. Yes. And even when because they do have like template options out there like Vellum or Ruiz's book editor. Yep. I'm not necessarily 100% against those. However, so like if that's what you want to do, if you want to invest in learning how to use some type of platform that allows you to typeset your book, that's okay. Mm-hmm. But for my preference and with my clients, I like custom stuff. Yeah. I like stuff that is cohesive, like your interior design is cohesive with your book cover. So for that reason, I always make sure that the cover is done first. Yep. And then I send that over to my interior designer so that he can make sure that it all flows together. Like absolutely. Similar font, similar feel, similar style. And a lot of times you don't get that option where you're using some of these DIY platforms because they're templates. Yeah. Right. So while it may be good enough, I don't necessarily think it's the best option when it comes to putting your interior design together. And Word is not... Word is not an option.
No, Word is not an option
at all. I've had someone argue me down about using Word. She was a typesetter that used Word. Word is a word processor. It's not typesetting software, and it doesn't allow you to go through the design process like professional design platforms do. So just say no to Word. If you do insist on doing it yourself, there are platforms out there for you. Word is not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, full stop. Like, I don't even know what else to say there. Like you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've walked through the ownership. We've walked through what the book now looks like, typesetting, design, the cover, and the words themselves, the editorial. Let's talk about that last piece, which is equally important. I mean, if not more important, because nobody knows the book is out there, it's not doing what you want it to do. So let's talk about that last piece, the last key for you.
Okay. So the last key in the 4 keys to self-publishing a premium quality book would be print on demand distribution / direct sales.
Okay.
So print on demand distribution allows your book to be available in online stores. So Amazon, Books and Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, even Target, Walmart, things like that. Yep. All those online retailers where books are sold. It allows you to upload your book to one platform, and that platform then makes your book available for sale at their retail site. And then as the orders come in, they print the book one at a time and ship it out to the customer for you, allowing you to avoid having a whole, inventory of 5,000 books in your living room.
Yep.
You can move through. You can kind of let the retailers or the wholesale distributors take care of that print on demand process for you. Print on demand, using someone else's platform to sell your books. I mean, you do have to pay to play. So don't go in expecting that they won't take a cut of your profits. You're using their platform. Sure. So you do have to pay some percentage. There's the cost of printing the book, as well as a discount that you're giving to the retailer that comes off of the retail price. And that difference then comes back to you as sales profits for every book that you sell. Visibility is super important. So one of the major, print on demand distribution platforms is Amazon KDP. As we probably are all familiar with, Amazon KDP makes it super easy for you to make your book available sale through Amazon. But they also offer a different option where it's called expanded distribution, where you can pick expanded distribution and then they can shoot your book out to other online retailers and make it available for sale that way. Unpopular opinion, just say no to expanded distribution with Amazon, because that gives Amazon more control over your book. With expanded distribution, they take 60% of the retail price as their profits, and you only get 40%. Now, I don't know about you, but as a business owner, as an author, and like I said, as authors, we are business owners.
Yes.
No one's going to get majority cut of my profits after the work I did, right? Yeah. I always advise my clients, or when I set up books for my clients, I say, hey, let's use Amazon KDP to sell your book on Amazon only. And then let's use a different distribution platform to go wide and make your book available for sale wherever books are sold. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about paperbacks, the print books. The paperbacks are hardcovers. I'm not talking about books right now. So when you use a different platform, say like an Ingram Spark, which is a wholesale platform, you upload your book there. They make the book available for sale through their thousands of retail partners. And you get to control how much of a cut they get, you get, so that it's not, well, to a certain extent, so that they're not taking the majority cut or having any type of control. So I think it's really important for people to understand 2 things about that. You want to go wide with your print books because you want to leave money on the table. Like there's no reason for you to only be selling on Amazon. You want to go wide, but you also want to do it in a way that makes financial sense. So Amazon KDP for Amazon and a wholesale distributor for all the other platforms where
I don't think that that's an unpopular opinion at all. I mean,
good.
I mean, among publishing professionals anyway. Okay. I think sometimes for authors, because it's like we were talking about before, it's like one more thing, like the free ISBN versus buying one's one more thing to have to do. When you tell them like, oh no, it's not just Amazon, you've got to figure out Ingram Spark too. It's like, oh, now I got one more account to create, one more thing to keep track of, one more whatever, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. Yeah. And then I think the shift happens when they're like, oh, then maybe I don't even want to be on Amazon. And I mean, I would love to not be on Amazon, honestly, but like, you've got to be on Amazon. Like people are going to Amazon to buy things, to spend their money, to buy books. So it's silly to not take advantage of that. But like you're saying, it is, but you know what? The caveat to that though, is that a lot of authors only sell on Amazon. They either think that is they think self-publishing is synonymous with Amazon KDP. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. They think that's the only option. They're not aware of other options, or they just, they just don't care. And it's just like, Amazon is not the end all be all, right?
Right.
And more important than that, especially for business owners, is that when you sell only through Amazon or only through any online retailer, you don't know who's buying your book.
Yes. I knew that's what you were going to say. Yes. Yes.
Like you have no control over that customer base. Those aren't your customers. Those are Amazon's customers.
Yes.
So you have no control over your marketing. You don't know who bought your book. You don't know how to bring them in for repeat sales.
Exactly.
Business owners. A lot of times for business owners, your book is the top end of your funnel.
Yes.
Your book is just an introductory product, right? How are they going to get from the book to the rest of your services?
Exactly.
They are.
Yeah.
So you
have no way to follow up with them with yes.
Absolutely.
And of course that makes sense for Amazon, right? It's their business model, but that's not your business model.
You best be sure Amazon is analyzing all of their customer data, figuring out how to market to them, figuring out how to get more sales from them. And it's working. Amazon is worth what? How many $1 trillion?
I know, right?
Yeah. So you need to make sure that you're not only building Amazon's brand, but you're building your own by selling direct through your own platform. I don't have any gripes against selling on Amazon at all.
Sure.
My philosophy is that you should put your book up on Amazon for people who are already on Amazon looking for a book like yours.
Yes.
If they're shopping for the business book or whatever it is that you're offering, and you optimize your page, even use Amazon ads if you want to. You know, make sure that it looks pretty, it looks good, and it's there. However, when it comes to driving traffic for book sales, you're taking them to your platform. You're telling people, you're not putting up a link to Amazon in your link in bio. You're not telling people, oh, my book is available on Amazon. You're giving them your website or your sales page so they can get connected to you. Soon as they buy your book, they're added to your email list. Soon as they're on your email list, they're added to your email funnel so that you can continue to sell them on your other products and services and make them fall in love with you. So they buy whatever you put out.
Yeah.
100%. And like authors, they don't want to sell direct, right? Because they don't want to handle, well, don't I have to ship the books? Well, don't I have to do this? Yes.
Yep. You sure do.
It's a labor of love. I mean, right.
Well, especially for, like the people in my orbit, business owners, like you're just leaving so much money on the table if you're not doing direct. Like it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And I think that that's becoming more and more true for all types of authors, not just business owners. I think maybe it used to be more that way, but yeah, at this point, Amazon's doing fine. You don't need to help them. Help yourself.
At all. Like how you want people to come, like how are you going to you have a series? You have a series out. How are you going to let them know the next book is available if you don't know who bought the series?
Exactly.
You can do different promotions. You can do book bundling and different packages. A lot of authors of multiple books. You can bundle them together for special pricing. If business owners, right? If you have another product or service, you can funnel them into that product or service, bundle that with whatever else you have to offer. There's so much you can do when you have complete control. Like you said, in the beginning, the allure of self-publishing is control. So, but if you exercise that control, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, that goes back to, we haven't even talked about this, but that goes back to figuring out, what are you trying to do with your books? Do you just want to be a published author? In which case, that's great. Good for you. It's a huge accomplishment to write and publish a book. But most people are trying to build either a professional writing career out of it, or they're for business owners using it as a marketing tool in their business. In both of those scenarios, you've got to have a bigger plan. You've got to have some goals set to help them when you hire someone like you or me or whoever. We can help you meet those goals, and you're not just, sort of out there flailing around with one book on Amazon.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if the authors know this, but you and I probably know this. A book is not a get rich quick scheme.
Amen.
You cannot self-publish a book, throw it up on Amazon, pray. I call it the publish and pray method. The publish and pray method is, and I'm a spiritual person. I believe prayer works. Okay. Yeah. However, just publishing your book, throwing it up on Amazon and praying that it sells, that's not a marketing strategy. That's not a sales strategy. It does not work. you have to put more into it. You have to invest time, energy, not just money, time, energy, knowledge, learning, and if you don't want to invest like the learning part, hire someone to, delegate those things and do those things for you, but make sure you're doing it the right way. Because if you are serious about achieving those goals, then you're going to have to figure out strategies and systems to make that happen.
Yeah. Listen, I feel like the two of us could just climb up on a soapbox and spend the day sharing a lot of
I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, this was a very, very fun conversation. We're going to put your freebie in the show notes because if you're not on Monique's email list, get this freebie, get on her list because it is, we've only scratched the surface in this conversation of these 4 keys. And I think you'll hear there's a lot of noise in the industry, but everybody's saying these 4 things. Like these 4 things are the things, everybody. Like these are the things. Yeah.
Well, everyone who wants you to do it right is saying those 4 things.
Yes. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. But I feel like the people listening to this podcast in our and your world and my world, that's why they're here, right? They want to do it the right way. And they want the book to do for them what they know that it can. They just need help making that happen. So
absolutely.
I love this conversation. This was so great. I don't let anyone leave the podcast without giving me a book recommendation or 2 or 3 or whatever you have. So, you're a book person, so I know you have some.
Absolutely. I'm actually reading 2 books right now.
Okay.
So the first one is called Mastery of Self. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. I don't know if you've heard of the 4 Agreements, but it's that author is his son.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about mastering yourself.
Love it.
Understanding yourself and navigating this world in a way that you get the most joy, benefit, and happiness out of it. Great book. It's my second time reading it, actually.
Okay. All right.
Then on the flip side of I do personal development and then I get immersed in my thrillers. Okay.
Okay.
That is my favorite genre of fiction to read. So I'm reading a book called The Last Party by A.R. Torre, which is right now, she's one of my favorite thriller authors, and it is definitely delivering so far.
Okay. All right. That is not for me because I'm a big chicken.
Really?
Yeah. I even like a TV show that's like, my husband's like, this isn't scary. It's just like a little suspense. I'm like, turn all the lights on. I don't want to watch it at night. Like I'm such a baby.
I love a thriller.
I know I'm in the minority. Everyone's like, no, this is so good. This is so good. And I'm like, nah.
I live for a good throw the book at the wall twist. Okay.
I love it. Yeah. Okay.
Throw the book down, go running out the room screaming because the twist just blew my mind. So
okay. Well, especially if you read a lot of that type of book, to be able for a twist to get you.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
I have high standards.
Yeah.
And that's what I write too. I write nonfiction, but my fiction, I write thrillers. Yeah, I got real high standards. Absolutely.
I love it. All right. Well, I will read the first one that you mentioned, the personal development book, especially if it's a reread. That's always a good sign. So, but we'll link both of those recommendations in the show notes also. This was such a great conversation, Monique. Tell people the best way to connect with you.
Sure. Yeah. The best way to connect with me is through my website, MoniqueMensah.com. That's MoniqueMensah.com. On there, you can learn all about me, what I do, how I help self-published authors publish premium quality books that don't look self-published. You can also find me on Instagram and on TikTok. I give lots of really good insight and information about the self-publishing process. And I offer through my website and through my social media channels, my freebie that we've been talking about, which is how to self-publish a premium quality book that doesn't look self-published. And you'll get lots of great information from that. However, if you are looking for someone to help you facilitate the self-publishing process, actually do it for you. I know a lot of business owners, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy, they don't want to learn a new skill. I am your personal self-publishing assistant. I take care of all of that for you and take it off your hands. And so all you need to do is just book a free strategy call with me. We'll discuss things, see what your goals are, see how we will work together, and we can decide together if we want to move forward and self-publish that premium quality book.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. Especially business owners, it's one of the reasons I love working with them is they're not afraid to make the investment in a professional product, and that makes it easy for like people like us to, to work with them. So fantastic information. I loved this conversation so much. We're going to link all of your where to find you and your book recommendations and your freebie and all that in the show notes. And we're going to have to find another topic to talk about so you can come back on the podcast. This was
I would love to come back.
Thank you.
I would love to come back. I've had a great time. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag WritePublishMarket to spread the love.